Dear students, in the previous class we have discussed one side of the market, namely the demand side. The other side is the supply side, representing the sellers. So today we discuss the supply side of the market. Now we start with defining what is supply. Supply is defined as a list of quantities that will be offered for sale in the market at various prices during a given period of time. So supply is defined as a list of quantities that will be offered for sale in the market at various prices during a given period of time. That is supply. Then, once we define supply, then what is supply function? As we have defined the demand function, supply function is defined as the functional relationship between quantity supplied of a commodity and various factors determining it. Supply function is the functional relationship between quantity supplied of a commodity and various factors determining it. Now, quantity of a commodity that a single producer is willing to sell over a period of time depends or is a function of quantity of a commodity that an individual seller is willing to supply at a given period of time depends on price of the commodity, technology of production, price of inputs determining the cost of production, climate and weather conditions, as in the case of agricultural commodities. So an individual producer's supply function is written as is a function of price of X, technology, then price of inputs, PA, and Fn represents climate and weather. So QSX is a function of PX, price of X, technology, prices of inputs, and climate and weather. Now, to obtain a single producer's supply schedule and supply curve, we keep all the factors affecting cost of production constant. That is, QSX is a function of PX. Factors affecting cost, technology, prices of inputs, and climatic conditions kept constant. As we have written in the case of the demand function, we write it as QSX is a function of PX. Ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus. QSX is a function of PX. Now, this is an individual supplier's supply function. Supply function as a function of Px, keeping all the factors affecting quantity supplied other than price held constant. Now, assuming that the supply function is linear, we write as an example Qsx as equal to minus 40 plus, as an example, minus 40 plus 20 px, assuming that the supply function is linear. Now substituting the relevant prices Px, and you will get the supply schedule. As you can see, if Px is 0, quantity is minus 40, not meaningful. So it will become meaningful only when Px is 2. Quantity supplied is 0, Px is 0, 3, 20, 4, 6, 40, 5, 60, like that. You have the supply schedule. And if you plot this supply schedule in the form of a graph, you will get the supply curve. And as in the case of the demand curve Px and Qx, when Px is 2, Qx is, so this is Qsx. An individual producer's supply schedule and corresponding supply curve. Slope of the supply curve, as you can see, is positive. So what we say is usually the slope of the supply curve is positive, but there is no law of supply as in the case of the law of demand. Usually it is positively sloped, but it can have zero slope, infinite slope, negative slope, etc. So generalizations are not possible. As in the case of the law of demand, generalizations are not possible in the case of supply function. And in general, a supply function is written as minus C plus dp. Like the individual demand curve, a supply curve in general is written as Qsx is equal to minus C plus dp. Now as you can see, minus C is negative, C is negative here. And there are many interpretations to why this C is negative. For the first, as an introduction, let me say, this is to ensure that supply will not forthcome unless price is sufficiently high. Unless price is sufficiently high, as in this case, no supply will forthcome until price is 2. That is, for price lower than 2, supply is, we will say, negative. No supply will forthcome. So in this case, this point is minus C and the slope is D. That is why, so if a specific supply function is given, we can derive an individual producer's supply schedule and the corresponding supply curve, as in the case of the demand schedule and demand curve. Now, remember this, we derive the individual producer's supply curve as a function of price of x, keeping all the other factors affecting quantity supplied constant, like technology, prices of inputs, weather and climatic conditions, etc. When any of these factors change, the entire supply curve will shift. The entire supply curve will shift. It is known as a change in supply. Is the shift in the supply curve resulting from factors other than price is known as change in supply. Change in supply. It can be increase in supply or a decrease in supply, as in the case of demand. Change in demand. That is increase in quantity, increase in demand, decrease in demand. Similarly, change in supply, increase in supply, decrease in supply. For example, if climate becomes favorable, farmers will supply more agricultural products at the same price. If there is a technological breakthrough, more will be supplied at the same price. And it is distinguished from change in quantity supplied. And change in quantity supplied is increase in quantity supplied, decrease in quantity supplied. Change in quantity supplied is increase in quantity supplied and decrease in quantity supplied. So, change in supply, change in supply means increase or decrease in supply. Change in quantity supplied means increase or decrease in quantity supplied. Remember this, change in supply is shown as a shift in the supply curve to the right or to the left, whereas change in quantity supplied results from a change in price. It is a movement along the same supply curve. Movement along the same supply curve. That is, if as a result of an increase, if as a result of an improvement in technology, cost of production decreases and the supply curve shifted towards the right from S to S dash, for the same price more will be supplied from Q1 to Q2. This is an increase in supply, whereas if the price increases and the quantity, this is not supply curve. Consider this supply S dash. For the same price, more will be supplied. So Q1 to Q2. Now suppose that as a result of an increase in price, more is supplied. So Q1 to Q3. This is due to a change in price. That is an increase in quantity supplied. So, as we have distinguished between change in demand and change in quantity demanded, remember this, in the case of supply also we have change in supply and change in quantity supplied. That is movement along the same supply curve versus shift in the supply curve. And when we say that the supply of a commodity has increased, it always means the shift in the supply curve. Now, given the individual producer's supply curve, we are now ready to define what is known as the market supply of a commodity. Now, the market supply of a commodity is defined as alternative amounts of the commodity supplied per time period at various alternative prices by all the producers of the commodity in the market. Market supply of commodity is nothing but the quantity supplied by all the producers in the market. So, quantity supplied, market supply of a commodity depends on all the factors which determines individual supply plus the number of producers in the market. For example, if an individual producer's supply curve is equal to minus 40 plus 20p, minus 40 plus 20p, And if there are 100 producers, suppose that there are 100 identical producers. Just for making the presentation easy, we assume that there are 100 identical producers. Then quantity supplied, market quantity is equal to 100 into QSX is equal to 100 into minus 40 plus 20p. So quantity supplied of X is equal to minus 4000 minus 2000 P or Px. So quantity supplied is minus 4000 plus 2000 Px. So market supply is obtained by horizontal summation of individual supply curves. We will say market supply is obtained by horizontal summation of individual supply curves. That is the other side of the market. And in the next class, we will combine both and derive the market equilibrium.